Hello Exiles, on the eve of 2.0's release. I wanted to showcase a build I've been 3D crafting ever since 2.0's details were announced. It uses a setup unlike any build I've seen, and has been very successful through my limited experience on beta. Maybe something you want to try sometime during the upcoming challenge leagues. It's been steamrolling content ever since Act 4 Cruel, and all through Merciless with a lot of room to improve. The idea of the build is to use the unique chest Soul Mantle with the Ancestral Bond Keystone to enable triple spell totem of your choice. I went with Arctic Breath for reasons I'll detail later. Soul Mantle has the big downside of inflicting a level 20 curse on self whenever a totem dies, including when you resummon them. To negate this downside, I'm using a Sanctified Mana Flask of Warding to give myself 14 seconds of curse immunity. Endgame, the objective is to roll Saturated on this flask as well to make it last 21 seconds. Potions have the downside that if your mana pool reaches full, the effect ends prematurely, so you have to have a big enough free mana pool to play around with. To this end, the unique jewel Clear Mind gives us a big spell damage boost at the trade-off of not reserving any mana for auras. This works to our advantage as we can use the entirety of our mana pool to keep our mana potions up for max duration. And that's the bare bones of the build. Some more specifics though. For my totems, I'm using Arctic Breath. I feel as some of the better support gems and utility. Its AoE explosions can effectively shotgun or overlap with multiple projectiles. The Chilled Ground slows enemies and makes Hypothermia a very strong support. But I could see other skills being just as strong, or at least less of an FPS killer. Further progression with the build involves getting the unique jewel Rain of Splinters to free up GMP for a different support gem like Hypothermia, slower projectiles, Empower, maybe even Concentrated Effect. Another unique jewel, Fervored Mind, is actually very strong as the increased mana cost will actually make it easier to keep the mana pool under 100%. Upgrading to a 5-length Soul Mantle is obviously one of the endgame goals to keep the damage and mana costs increasing. Moving to the passive tree, the Scion is the best start. It's just the most point efficient, and this build is really stretched for having enough passive points. Immediately you're going to try to travel up to the Templar starting area, grabbing any AoE, elemental damage, cast speed, etc. as possible. And then swinging back around through these life nodes in order to get Ancestral Bond. Nearby are some more elemental damage synergies, so picking up those is an easy pickup, as well as any available jewel sockets. Next, coming down and grabbing Mind over Matter with our free and large mana pool. This gives us a great amount of survivability and helps keep our mana under 100%. For endgame, traveling over to the Witch seems like the best option. Coming over, grabbing more AoE, coming down and up to grab more life and mana, and especially this Alchemist notable here, which just will help our mana and life flasks keep us alive for longer, even more jewel sockets, etc. Eventually, the build will also want to pick up these potion notables here next to the Scion. This life flask one especially is really powerful earlier as soon as you can get it. I'm actually trying to get there right now and would be my next objective. Just really helps keep our life flasks really powerful, and considering this build doesn't have any regen or leech capacity, potions are how this build stays alive in a pinch and for extended encounters. The mana flask notable is especially strong, however it makes our potions too good at this point of the build. They regen more mana than I can spend, which leads to not having curse immunity up permanently, which is a big problem. It's worth noting that this build used to come down here to the southeast when Mind over Matter was located down here. It gave great proximity to this notable here, which just screams value for this build. But now, even with the proximity to this life cluster, it is just 2-point inefficient, and it's really disappointing because I thought that was a great way to make the build be unique. Also worth noting that this build would have used Arctic Armor if GGG hadn't changed the mechanics. When it was just a mana degen, the saturated mana flask was more than enough to sustain a really high level Arctic armor. If we needed to regen, could have just used lightning warp to move around. And when we weren't casting our totems and we just wanted to keep our mana under 100%, all you had to do was run. So it had a great synergy. Really sad to see that leave. Not to mention just the, I feel, less interesting mechanic of using a reservation and a percent armor reduction rather than flat reduction and mana degen. I just felt it was really unique. So I'm sad to see that go, but that's enough crying over that. There's also a lot of flexibility with this build. For example, on the passive tree, the entire southern Scion area and or Templar starting area could be gutted for more crit and power charge focus. A different spell gem other than Arctic Breath for the totems can lead to dramatic alterations to the build as well. There are no restrictions with the weapons, so a Tarn Shiver, maybe a Heartbreaker plus a Storm Sail shield with Magic Find gear. Maybe you could even use a Prism Garden and put a Herald on your HP. Or maybe just use a solid rare staff or 2 one-handers. These are all viable options for the setup. The build is also very flexible with gems. Currently, I'm just using my Totem setup, Lightning Warp, a Golem, as well as a Curse setup. I'm not even actually using one of my 4 links, and a lot of these are actually over supported. Also squeezing in an Enduring Cry. Couple ideas I have is probably using a Cast on Damage Taken setup for one of these, and maybe even using a dual Curse on Hit setup. I could see some nice synergy using Temporal Chains with Frostbite in order to do extra damage, freeze for longer, and just slow down enemies even more by combining Temporal Chains with the chilled ground from the Arctic Breath. So it just has a lot of flexibility, and you definitely are not limited by sockets at all. That said, let's do a quick Merciless Docks Run to show the build in action. In gameplay, the build requires a lot of juggling. This will be the biggest determining factor for whether this build is for you. You must constantly keep an eye on the mana pool and resummon totems appropriately to keep your mana under 100%. If you aren't paying attention, your curse immunity will wear off prematurely and you can lead to an untimely death. If you spam mana potions too frequently, you'll run out of charges and you'll kill yourself from the curses. It's a very fast-paced game style where you eventually reach a point of controlled chaos that's a lot of fun. As the build matures and mana costs go up, it's actually easier to control the mana pool. Even in Merciless, I often deliberately take damage to let Mind Over Matter take a chunk from my mana to help. If spastic gameplay and screen clutter isn't your thing, this build may not be for you. So usually you want to start off by throwing down some totems, getting some curses going, getting that mana a little bit under, and then time to let her rip. And so I'm constantly just keeping track of my mana and trying to keep that under 100%. Whenever it is, try to spam totems as fast as possible and keep that train rolling. As you can see, the clear speed is pretty nutters. My build has mostly, and see now my mana has regenerated since weren't enemies, taking some curses, and get right back into it. I'm actually going to deliberately take some damage here to help keep my mana down. Arctic Breath works wonderful in type-constrained areas. Just allows the things to shotgun off of walls behind enemies and just deal a ton of damage. Curses help too, but usually don't cost enough mana. Really can't wait till I can find a Fervent Mind to make this twice as easy to manage all these type of things going on. But I personally have a lot of fun with the build, and I would encourage it to anyone to whom this might appeal. So I'll go ahead and Town Portal back And let's see how this build does against Cruel Malachai. So here we are at Cruel Malachai. I've already killed the 3 mini-bosses beforehand, so we can just jump right into the actual fun stuff. To make this a little bit more balanced and to give a better reflection of how the build actually did the first time I killed Malachai, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a level 9 Arctic Breath. I was about level 50 when I took him down, so I think that'll help. So my damage is going to go down from 1500 all the way down to 784, so about half as much damage. It's going to be a pretty hard hit. This was the gear I had at the time, just this nice spell damage staff, helmet with a lot of armor, of course the unique chest, some mana and resistance, some all attributes, got to get that dexterity, a lot of resistances, just some really mediocre gear, just focus in on life and resistances like everybody should be. I could also make this fight a lot more trivial by just running a second Sanctified Mana Flask of Warding. Just really helps when there aren't enough adds to keep my potions up, and if I'm not taking enough damage to keep my mana pool under 100%. So I might need to throw down a TP or 2 just to recharge my Mana Flask, but otherwise the fight shouldn't be too bad. Also worth noting, just from having the extra levels, I have about 300 more HP than I would normally, just from the flat HP you get per level, and I already spec'd out of the passives I got from being level 65 right now, and some of the quest rewards I got from Merciless difficulty. So, as you can see, my defenses are well over capped, and everything should be good to go. So, if you don't want any spoilers, you should have already left. Let's get it going. Resummon my Totem, get him back up to max life. He's a little higher level, so he should survive a little bit better. But we'll see how I can do. Hopefully I don't make a fool of myself. If not, Malachai's still hard, will likely get a nerf before release. So, we'll see how it goes. Let's have some fun. Alright, I'm actually going to deliberately every once in a while run into these things right there on the ground, his little traps he lays, just to keep that mana under 100%. Those worms are excellent for keeping up those flash charges. Whenever he does the tentacles, it's really easy just to jump behind him, drop a bunch of damage. How's my Totem doing? I mean, my Golem is still alive. Just gotta look out for the one-shots mostly in this fight. Okay, moving on to phase 2. Gotta burn down Piety. This can be a little hard just to keep track of everything that's going on. Malachai will move around when you aren't expecting it. I also don't think you have as many adds during this part of the fight, so it's easy to take something like that. So let's just, nice thing, just no auras, can just jump right back into the fight. I think I let my potions expire there, and just wasn't paying attention to effects that were going on the ground. Still haven't learned all the mechanics of this fight. Okay, so he's going down, he's coming up. Need to make sure I have my potions up. So hard to keep my mana under 100%. Phase 2 again. Phase 3 is actually quite easy. Just gotta burn Piety down. Focus on her. Don't lose your eye on Malachai when he does a slam like that. How did that hit me? Alright, seems about time for a quick potion recharge. Again, looking at Piety, not at the fight itself. So that probably would have killed me if I didn't have that 300 extra HP. And Piety should be down pretty soon. There we go. I'm just gonna TP out quick while he does his business there. Just start off the next phase with fresh mana Flask. Summon my golem. Just try to get the mana down a little bit before the fight starts. Immediately spam my mana potion, get some curses going. Just keep moving whenever he's doing that. I'm going to take some damage from these little degen things on the ground just to shoot. I'll take even a couple tentacle smacks. This build really shines when he goes into the heart phases, just because they're right next to the wall, so all 15 totems projectiles will just wreck it. Okay, hasn't been any ads to get potion charges off too. Seems like they're just now coming in. Alright. Don't have to worry about the big smash, just have to worry about when he pops up out the ground and does that little AoE thing. Okay, there he goes down, there he pops up, spam some totems. Golem's getting a little low, throw out the occasional enduring cry. Take a few hits, dodge those completely. There we go. Don't think those degens actually work with mind over matter. Tentacles do. Running out of flash charges, but some nice minions. Should be able to get another charge. There we go. Okay, next heart phase. Just curse that, curse everything, take a ton of damage, and let's pour it out of here quick. Second heart down. When he puts himself up against the wall, really easy to just do a lot of damage. I tried to use a Flask there when I was already at 100%, which was a poor choice. Again, trying to keep that mana under 100%. Just hit some of these ground things, try to get it under. And some more ads. There we go. Just in time. Like I said, if I was just carrying a second mana Flask instead of this Quicksilver, this fight would be much easier. Wouldn't have to worry about accidentally killing myself. Alright, final heart. Now we got the ground thing on the moving around. Let's go ahead and get out of here quick. Just burn that down. Moving on to final phase. Needed to take that hit too. Ground effects get really hard to see in this fight, but pretty tough to shotgun him, but so it goes. Let my Flask get down for a second. And we almost got him. I'm just going to get a little greedy here and run around with a bunch of curses. There we go. The fight still got awful long, but especially for softcore, this isn't that bad. I think I had one death just from so much crap trying to keep track of. Ooh, there we go. Any second now. There we go. So that's him down on Cruel. I didn't have, like I said, didn't have much for gear. Pretty straightforward leveling stuff. The only hard things to get are the Soul Mantle and the Clear Mind Jewel. And this build just keeps on steamrolling. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'll probably try to put together a build forum thread or something like that for some discussion, and just give more details on how to level, maybe different options of directions you can go with the build. But I hope you enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun playing it, and like I said, there's a lot of room to improve with this build. Getting a 5 or 6 link, better weapons, better gear, etc. So have fun and enjoy 2.0.